Maya always thought her life was exactly how it should be. She lived in a quiet suburb where faces were familiar and days moved with a comforting rhythm. Her husband, Raj, worked long hours as a branch manager at the local bank. He was a good man, dependable, loyal, the kind people pointed to and said, "He's a keeper." They had 2 children together, a modest home, and a routine that never changed. She woke up early, packed lunches, dropped the kids to school, and spent the rest of her day running errands or scrolling through her phone. To anyone outside, she had the perfect life. But inside, something had started to wither. Raj no longer looked at her the way he used to. They barely talked about anything beyond logistics, groceries, school, bills. Even when they sat together in the evenings, it felt like she was sharing the couch with a stranger. He was either too tired or too distracted, always glued to his phone or half listening. She tried to bring it up, gently at first. He brushed it off. "We're just busy, that's all." But it wasn't just that. The closeness they once had, the inside jokes, the spontaneous hugs, the warmth was gone. It wasn't a sudden change. It crept in over the years, almost unnoticed. One morning, while getting ready, she stared at herself in the mirror. Her face looked older, not just in years but in weariness. She didn't remember the last time someone really looked at her. Not like a mother, not like a wife, but as a woman. She started writing again, just short thoughts in a notebook. Some days it was one line, "I feel invisible." Other days she wrote paragraphs she tore out and threw away before the kids came home. Then came the moments she didn't expect. There was a man, Arjun. She noticed him because he always smiled when their paths crossed. He was new in the neighborhood, recently divorced, around her age. At first, it was polite nods and brief greetings outside the school gate. But one day, she dropped her keys, and he bent to help. Their hands touched briefly. He smiled. She smiled back. And something stirred that she didn't want to name. It wasn't love. Not yet. It wasn't even desire. It was attention. Genuine, focused attention. He asked her how her day was, and when she answered, he listened. They started bumping into each other more often. Coffee at the same cafe. Walks at the same park. Small coincidences that soon became habits. She began wearing lipstick again. Not for him, she told herself. Just to feel present. At home, Raj didn't notice the change. Or maybe he did and chose not to. One night, she mentioned seeing Arjun. "That guy?" Raj said, uninterested. "Be careful. He looks like trouble." She wanted to scream. Not because he was wrong, but because he didn't care enough to ask why she even brought him up. She kept writing. One line stood out in her journal. "What's worse, being lonely or being alone in a room with someone who doesn't see you?" Maya didn't plan for it to become something. It started small, short conversations outside the cafe, casual chats about the weather, kids, work. Arjun had a calm way of speaking, always looking directly at her, as if her words mattered. He remembered things she said, what books she liked, how she took her coffee, even that she hated the sound of ticking clocks. Raj hadn't asked her anything personal in years. At first, Maya tried to keep it friendly, drawing invisible lines in her mind, but she kept stepping closer to them every day. She told herself it was innocent. She was just enjoying the attention. She deserved to feel seen. A compliment here, a joke there, a shared moment of silence that felt strangely comforting. Arjun never pushed. He was respectful. That made it easier to trust him, which made it harder to walk away. One afternoon, they sat on a bench near the school after pickup. They talked about loneliness. He said his divorce wasn't ugly, just empty. "It's worse when there's nothing left to fight for," he said. Maya nodded, and for the first time, she admitted, "I feel like I'm fading." That was the moment she knew it wasn't just friendship. She began checking her phone more, waiting for his messages. When he didn't text, she felt anxious. When he did, she smiled. She started lying, harmless ones at first, saying she was going grocery shopping when she was really meeting him for coffee, deleting messages, turning off notifications. It didn't feel wrong yet, just secret. They began sharing more memories, regrets, dreams. He asked what she wanted from life, and she didn't know how to answer. No one had asked her that since before her marriage. She started imagining what it would be like to spend more time with him. Not as a friend, as something more. She laughed more in those weeks than she had in years. She felt beautiful again. Alive. One day, as they walked side by side, their hands brushed. Neither pulled away. It was a quiet touch, subtle but electric. She felt her breath catch, and he looked at her differently, no longer careful, but curious. They stood still for a second longer than they should have. She left that day feeling something between panic and longing. She didn't talk to Raj that night. Couldn't. Her mind was elsewhere. Maya started dreaming about Arjun. Not sexually, but emotionally. About what it would be like if things were different, if she were single, if they had met at a different time, if her life was still her own. She wondered if these thoughts were betrayal. She wondered why she didn't feel more ashamed. At home, everything felt duller. The dinners, the conversations, the routine. Even the kids' laughter felt distant. One night, she wrote a single word in her journal. Drifting. Not from her marriage. From herself. And it scared her how much she didn't want to stop. The first time it happened, there were no grand declarations or dramatic build-up. It was quiet, slow, and deliberate. Maya had gone to see Arjun after a heated argument with Raj about something trivial, forgotten groceries. She didn't mean to stay long, but the moment she stepped inside, the silence between them said everything words couldn't. There was no need to explain. He touched her face gently, and she didn't pull away. The kiss was soft at first, hesitant, but full of all the emotion she had been burying. They crossed a line they could never uncross. Afterward, Maya sat in his bed, wrapped in a blanket of confusion. Her heart pounded with a mix of fear and relief. She felt desired, wanted. But beneath that was a sharp edge of guilt she couldn't ignore. Arjun tried to comfort her, saying they hadn't done anything wrong. They'd just followed their hearts. But she knew better. She had betrayed not just Raj, but herself. Still, she didn't leave right away. In the days that followed, everything felt different. Raj noticed, even if he didn't say much. She was quieter, more distracted. He asked her if everything was okay. She nodded, smiled, said she was just tired. The lies came easier now. Arjun messaged often. Their meetings became regular. They talked less and touched more. It was no longer about loneliness. It had turned into something else: need, escape, addiction. At home, the cracks widened. Raj became more distant, more irritable. He started asking questions she couldn't answer truthfully. Where were you? Why didn't you pick up? What's going on with you lately? One night, he grabbed her phone and she snatched it back, too quickly. That was when the suspicion fully settled in his eyes. Their children sensed it. Maya caught her daughter watching her during dinner, confused, silent. The guilt returned stronger. She began to avoid mirrors. At night, she stared at the ceiling and tried to convince herself she still loved Raj. She did in a way. Or maybe she loved who he used to be. But now, she felt trapped by duty, by routine, by fear. Things with Arjun weren't perfect either. He had started asking more from her, more time, more honesty, more commitment. He wanted her to leave Raj, to be with him fully. But she couldn't imagine that. She wasn't ready to blow up her entire life. And slowly, she began to realize that what they had wasn't a real relationship. It was a hiding place, a fantasy. The confrontation came one Saturday evening. Raj had seen her with Arjun, just a glimpse, but it was enough. He didn't yell. He just looked at her and asked, "Is there someone else?" She froze. For a second, she considered lying. But she didn't. She nodded. That was all it took. He walked out of the room without a word. And in that silence, something inside her shattered. Later that night, Maya sat on the floor of her bedroom, phone in hand, staring at Arjun's name. She didn't call. She didn't know if she wanted him, or if she just didn't want to be alone. Weeks passed. The house was quieter now. Raj had moved into the guest room. They barely spoke except about the children. Maya went through each day like she was underwater. Present, functioning, but disconnected. Arjun still messaged, still asked to see her, but she responded less and less. Whatever they had, it didn't feel the same anymore. Without the secrecy, it had lost its intensity. Or maybe she had finally stopped running and was now facing herself for the first time. She began waking up earlier, sitting by the window with a notebook again. Her writing was raw. She didn't romanticize what had happened. She didn't blame Raj or Arjun or even herself entirely. But she no longer excused her choices. She wrote about the ache of feeling unseen, about how easy it was to lose yourself in daily life, how dangerous it is to forget who you are until you're too far gone. The children adjusted quickly, or at least they pretended to. Her son asked if Daddy was angry. Her daughter stopped asking questions altogether. That hurt more. Maya started taking them out more often, tried to be present, tried to fill in the emotional gaps. But children are perceptive. They knew something had changed, and she didn't have the courage to explain it in a way they'd understand. Raj didn't ask for details. He never yelled, never demanded to know everything. But the way he looked at her was different, cold, distant, guarded. One night he said quietly, "I don't know who you are anymore." She didn't answer because she didn't know either. There were no dramatic fights, no begging for forgiveness. Just silence and space. He focused on the kids, on work, on anything that wasn't her. Arjun eventually stopped trying. The messages came less frequently until they stopped altogether. She didn't chase after him. She realized that what they had wasn't sustainable. It wasn't built on trust or truth. It was born from emptiness, not love. And it couldn't survive the light of day. He was a chapter, not the whole book. In time, Maya began rebuilding herself. Not for anyone else, just to feel whole again. She took an online course, started painting, started saying no when she wanted to. The woman who had once been lost in roles, mother, wife, partner, was now searching for herself without hiding behind labels. She didn't hate Raj. She didn't hate herself either. But she had accepted the consequences of her choices. There was no grand closure. Just days that moved forward. Some heavy, some light. Some full of guilt, others of quiet pride. One afternoon, she looked at a photo from years ago and didn't feel sad. Just distant, like she was looking at someone she used to know. She closed the album and whispered, "You did what you thought you needed, but now do better." And she would. Not to undo what was done, but to choose differently moving forward. Not for redemption. For growth.